Thank you for downloading from the BBC. For details of our complete range of podcasts and our terms of use, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.
Be alif ba. Ba.
A lesson for primary school children in a makeshift classroom in Swabi. This district is one of the first safe places people reached when they fled the fighting in Swat. The children have matted hair and dirty faces. The school is also a makeshift home for their families. In this edition of Assignment for the BBC, I'll be travelling around Pakistan, looking at the government's military success in its fight against the Taliban, and at the all-important battle to come for the population's hearts and minds. And I'm starting here, amongst the displaced and increasingly desperate. I've just met a young woman called Layla. She arrived 8 days ago with her 3 children. Her husband was killed in the fighting and she's just shown me her bullet wound on her shoulder. Looks untreated, and she had to walk with that for 8 hours with her children before they could get to safety.
There was very intense fighting. The husband told her just to grab the children and we have to run for it. She said we came out and we were hit by stray bullets. I don't remember after that. When I woke up, I was in one of my relatives' house. They told me that my husband is dead and I was hit. I was told I had lost a lot of blood, and one of the local people had to stitch my wound. My arm is numb. I couldn't get proper treatment there, and even over here now I don't know where to go to. I don't have any money. I don't know about the health facilities here.
The government is saying it's safe to go back now to some places. Are you happy to go back now?
If someone gives me surety there is peace, I would just go today. But she says the thing is that the government keeps on saying it, but for the time being the Taliban's disappear, and then what we have heard is that as soon as the population will start coming in, they will again come back. So we are not clear what the government and the Talibans are doing. According to her, she says it appears as if they are on the same side,
Another lady's chipping in now. Her name's Nazra. She says she and her family arrived a month and a half ago. They're not registered and they've had no food at all from the government.
We haven't received any rations. For the past 1 month, nobody has received rations. Today, I didn't have any flour, so one of the local household, they gave me some flour so I could cook some bread for my children. We have no news from back home whether our houses are damaged or standing there. Nothing is clear, and we can't understand and make sense out of what is happening to us.
The government offensive in Swat was designed to drive the Taliban out of an area close to Islamabad. The military has taken back control, but the cost was this massive internal displacement of civilians, the worst in Pakistan's history. Down the road from the school, I've come across the fields to a high-walled compound. Inside, it's crowded with women and children, 32 in just a few rooms. Sajida is the matriarch here.
We have arranged electricity for them. I've got a water machine for them to make sure that they have water and electricity. And these are like my brothers and sisters, and I've tried to do everything possible for them. And I'm not a rich woman, you can see that, but I'm doing it for my God.
What about things like the toilet? Are there enough toilets for 32 people?
She said that I've made these makeshift toilets for them.
So there's no proper toilet, they just have to go in the corner of the room.
I just opened my heart to them, really.
Ladies of the family are crowding round us, some with their children in their arms. They have nowhere else to go. What problems do you find here, living here as a guest in someone else's house?
We have a lot of problems. We can't have a bath here. There's no provision for bathing the children. The water is in very short supply. The electricity comes and goes. And my children are sick, but we are still very grateful for them to be accommodating us.
How are you getting enough food to eat? Are you registered and getting government handouts?
They are saying that we received just rations once.
The government's now saying it is safe for people to go home, but clearly some people are reluctant, and many of them are living with host families, complete strangers. Shandana Durrani is a communications officer with the children's agency UNICEF. How typical is this situation?
It is quite typical, 80% of the people are living either in schools, in makeshift shelters, or in host families like the one that we are standing in. The local population has really sacrificed a lot, and they have opened their houses. They are poor people, but they are sharing whatever they have.
These families are hidden away in the fields, behind the walls of this high compound. I wouldn't have known they were here if you hadn't brought us. They seem to be quite invisible in terms of the aid.
This is very true. They are quite invisible, and if you talk to them, you come to realize that as far as the government aid has been coming or the humanitarian aid has been coming, people don't know about them. There is no access to these families, and since the women and children basically stay indoors, they are kept invisible. They haven't received any health facilities, and as far as the Russians are concerned, if there is a man in the household, with great difficulty they get it, but if it's women and children, it is impossible for them even to get food rations.
We've only managed to come here with an armed escort, and they're getting quite anxious. They're asking us now to move on. There's a lot of insecurity in this area too, and they're worried about our safety. Everyone wants to go home, but they're afraid. Some say the Taliban may come back. Others say they've run out of money and can't afford to rebuild homes. In the meantime, host families are bearing a heavy burden. General Nadim Ahmed is the head of the government's Special Emergency Task Force. I told him that many people I've met say the government is neglecting them.
I will take it with a pinch of salt that all the people who are traumatized, who have moved out of their homes, if they start to say that we have got something, then psychologically they feel that all the assistance will stop. So even if you go to the camps, which are probably one of the best that I have seen, they will also never tell you that, we are satisfied. So asking people who have gone through a trauma that are you satisfied with the kind of assistance, the answer will always be no, irrespective of any part of the world.
But if I ask them, what have you had from the government? These are people who say the local people are giving us food, they're giving us shelter, they're giving us clothes. Officially, we're getting nothing. You're saying you don't think they're telling the truth?
No, I'm not saying they're not telling the truth. What I was commenting is on their mental state. All these communities who are helping the people who are living with the host families, they come to us that, look, we are catering for so much of displaced population, and would you be able to help us with food and with clothing and with medicine? So some of the people who apparently look that they are getting it from their own pocket is also getting the resource from the government. So please, this should not be a cause of concern that people have come out and they have not been able to get assistance. Anybody who has come out has got the assistance.
This whole crisis developed because the Taliban was able to take root. It thrived in some of Pakistan's most remote areas, where the state's grip has always been tenuous. Now the government says it's serious about crushing the insurgents. It plans to bolster security in the northwest and improve law and order. I'm travelling next to Punjab province to see a controversial new idea. This is Daratang checkpoint. Ahead of me over there, the rugged mountains of Northwest Frontier Province and beyond the tribal areas, where the battle between militants and the military is raging. And on the other side, Punjab, Pakistan's heartland, which the government is desperate to protect. Daratang is a critical entry point, both for militants and their extremist ideology, and this whole area has become crucial in the battle against both.
I'm Saeed Khan and I'm inspector. And I am sub-divisional police officer. We have arrested a lot of culprits. We have act of terrorism on this post. A lot of shooting incident, there was an explosion, and we have arrested these culprits. And as a result of this, these terrorists just think that we are their enemies. That is the main danger here.
vehicle's just come through. That was a minivan with about 15 men in. They were all told to get out of the vehicle. They were taken by the police to an area just in front of the security cameras, and each one had to stop and have their photograph taken. And also the vehicle itself was checked. They were